What happens when your older brother is too overprotective? My older brother Marcus started getting weird about my social life right after he got his new job at the phone company 3 months ago. Before that, he was pretty normal. We got along fine, he minded his own business, typical sibling relationship. But suddenly, he was asking questions about every guy I talked to, wanting to know where I was going on dates, insisting on driving me places instead of letting me take the bus. At first, I thought it was sweet, maybe just big brother instincts kicking in since I'd turned 18. The strange part was how much he seemed to know about my plans without me telling him. I'd mentioned going to dinner with Jake from my college class, and Marcus would say something like, "Hope you don't mind the noise from the construction next to that restaurant on 5th Street, but I'd never told him which restaurant we were going to. When I asked how he knew, he'd just shrug and say he'd driven past it earlier. But 5th Street was nowhere near his work route or anywhere he normally went. Small details like that kept happening. I'd tell him I was meeting my friend Ashley for coffee, and he'd warn me about the broken sidewalk outside the coffee shop before I'd even mentioned which one. He started offering to drive me everywhere, which was unusual because he used to complain constantly about being my personal taxi service. Now he seemed eager to give me rides, always insisting it was no trouble. During these car rides, he'd make comments about people on the street that seemed oddly specific, like pointing out a blue Honda and saying the owner had 3 unpaid parking tickets, or mentioning that the guy walking his dog had recently moved here from Denver. Random information that no one would normally know or care about. When I asked how he knew these things, he'd change the subject quickly. The breaking point came last week when I was getting ready for a date with a guy named Ryan I'd met through a dating app. Marcus knocked on my bedroom door and said we needed to talk. He sat on my bed looking more serious than I'd ever seen him. "I need you to cancel tonight," he said quietly. "Trust me on this one. Okay? Just tell Ryan something came up." When I asked why, he hesitated for a long moment. Then he said, "Some people aren't who they pretend to be online." That's when I realized Marcus somehow knew Ryan's name, even though I'd never mentioned it to him. I'd been careful about keeping my dating life private because of how nosy he'd become. "How do you know his name?" I asked, my stomach starting to twist. Marcus looked uncomfortable, like he'd said something he shouldn't have. "Lucky guess," he mumbled. Most dating app guys have basic names like Ryan or Tyler, but his explanation felt forced and didn't make sense. I pressed him harder, asking exactly what he meant about people not being who they pretend to be. He kept deflecting, saying he just had a bad feeling and asking me to trust him. Finally, he left my room, but I heard him making a phone call in the hallway. I couldn't make out most of what he was saying, but I caught fragments like, "Yeah, she's supposed to meet him tonight, and I think you're right about this one." That night, I pretended to cancel my date but actually snuck out through my bedroom window to meet Ryan anyway. I was determined to prove Marcus was being paranoid for no reason, but when I got to the restaurant, I saw Marcus sitting in his car across the street, watching the entrance. He'd been following me and somehow tracking my movements for months. I confronted him the next morning, demanding to know why he'd been spying on me. That's when he finally told me what he'd discovered through his job at the phone company, and why he'd been so desperate to protect me. Marcus sits across from me at our kitchen table, his face pale in the morning light. The mug of coffee between his hands has gone cold, untouched. I can't stop shaking. "I monitor the data," he finally says, his voice barely above a whisper, "at the phone company. I can see everything. Text messages, calls, location data, app usage, everything." My mind races to process what he's saying. The implications hit me in waves. All those times he knew where I was going, who I was meeting, the restaurants, the coffee shops. It wasn't coincidence or lucky guesses. "That's illegal," I managed to say. "You can't just spy on people like that." Marcus runs a hand through his hair, looking exhausted. "I know, but when I started the job, I just wanted to make sure you were safe. I'd check your location sometimes, just to know you got home okay. But then I started noticing patterns with some of the guys you were talking to." He pulls out his phone and opens an app I've never seen before. It looks like some kind of database. "Ryan isn't even his real name," Marcus says, turning the screen toward me. "It's Ethan Mercer. He's got a violent criminal record across 3 states. Assault, stalking, harassment. He changes his name on dating apps to avoid getting caught." I stare at the screen, my stomach turning as I scroll through arrest records, court documents, and restraining orders. The photo matches Ryan's profile picture, but everything else is a lie. "He's done this before," Marcus continues, his voice steadier now. "2 other women in the past 18 months. He finds them online, charms them, and then he trails off, but I don't need him to finish." The police reports tell the story. "How did you know to look him up?" I ask, still trying to process everything. "I didn't, not at first, but I've been monitoring certain patterns of behavior in the data. When I saw you matched with him on the app, I ran his profile through our system. The phone number he gave you is linked to multiple identities." That was the first red flag. I pushed the phone back toward him, feeling sick. "So you've been watching everything I do? Reading all my texts? Listening to my calls?" Marcus looks down, not listening to calls. But yes, I can see who you talk to, when, and for how long. I can see your text messages, your location history. That's not just me you're violating, I say, my voice rising. That's everyone. You're spying on random citizens. I'm protecting you, he insists. If I hadn't been watching, you would have met Ryan last night, and based on his pattern with the other women, it wouldn't have ended well. Part of me wants to scream at him, to tell him he had no right. But another part remembers seeing him sitting in his car outside the restaurant last night, watching out for me even when I deliberately disobeyed him. You made a call after you left my room, I say. Who were you talking to? Marcus hesitates. A friend at the police department. I sent him everything I had on Ryan. They've been looking for him for skipping bail in Oregon. So you're not just invading my privacy, you're also sharing my information with the police? My voice cracks with disbelief. I didn't share anything about you specifically, just that Ryan was in town and where he might be found. Marcus reaches across the table, but I pull my hands away. Look, I know this seems bad, but you have no idea what kind of people are out there. And you do, because you spy on everyone? I ask bitterly. Not everyone, he says, but his eyes shift away in a way that makes me think he's lying. Just potential threats. I think about Jake from my college class, how Marcus knew which restaurant we were going to. About Ashley and the coffee shop with the broken sidewalk. How many other dates and friendships has he been monitoring? How am I supposed to trust you now? I ask. You've been lying to me for months. I was trying to protect you, he repeats. Ryan isn't the first dangerous person you've matched with online. There was that guy last month, the one with the motorcycle. Trevor? I interrupt. What was wrong with Trevor? Marcus scrolls through his phone again. Domestic violence charge from 2 years ago. His ex-girlfriend had to get stitches. My head spins as I try to reconcile the charming guy who'd bought me ice cream with the monster in Marcus's database. How many bullets have I dodged without even knowing? I don't know what to feel right now. I admit, part of me is grateful you stopped me from meeting Ryan, but what you're doing, it's wrong, Marcus. You can't just appoint yourself as everyone's digital guardian. I know, he says quietly, but if you'd seen what I've seen in the data, how vulnerable people are, how many predators are out there just waiting for an opportunity. I look at my brother, really look at him. The dark circles under his eyes, the tension in his shoulders. For 3 months, he's been carrying the weight of information no one should have access to. It's changed him. What happens now? I ask. Ryan was arrested last night, Marcus says. They found him waiting outside the restaurant after you left. He had zip ties and duct tape in his car. The reality of how close I came to danger hits me like a physical blow. If Marcus hadn't been watching, if he hadn't followed me. Thank you, I whisper, the words feeling inadequate, for last night, but this can't continue. You can't keep spying on me or anyone else. Marcus nods slowly, but there's something in his expression that makes me uneasy. Like he's already decided what's best for me, regardless of what I want. I need some time to process this, I say, standing up from the table. And we're not done talking about it. As I walk away, I can feel his eyes on my back. My brother saved me, but at what cost? And more importantly, who's going to save everyone else from my brother? I spend the next few days in a fog, trying to process everything Marcus told me. Every time my phone buzzes, I wonder if he's watching. When I walk to class, I find myself looking over my shoulder, wondering if he's tracking my location in real time. The worst part is that I can't even be angry with him. Not completely. He potentially saved my life, but at what cost? After 3 sleepless nights, I decide I need to understand exactly what Marcus has access to. I start with Google searches on my laptop rather than my phone, looking up phone company data access and customer information privacy laws. What I find terrifies me. The amount of data phone companies collect is staggering, and the protections for that data seem flimsy at best. I create a new email address and reach out to a tech journalist who specializes in digital privacy. I'm careful not to mention Marcus by name, just describing a hypothetical situation where someone at a phone company might be accessing personal data. The journalist responds within hours. If what you're describing is real, she writes, it's a major federal violation. The person doing this could face serious prison time. I close the email, my hands trembling. Prison time. The words echo in my head as I try to imagine Marcus behind bars. Despite everything, he's still my brother. That evening, I'm studying in my room when Marcus knocks on my door. He's holding 2 cups of coffee from my favorite place downtown. Peace offering, he says, extending 1 cup toward me. I take it reluctantly. Thanks. He sits on the edge of my bed while I remain at my desk. I know things have been weird since our talk. I just want you to know I'm here if you want to talk more about it. Actually, I say, gathering my courage, I do have some questions. Marcus nods, looking relieved. Ask me anything. How much can you actually see? Like, specifically? He takes a sip of his coffee before answering. Basically everything that passes through our network. Call logs, who you called, when, how long you talked. Text messages, both SMS and most messaging apps. Your location history based on cell tower pings, websites you visit, apps you use, and for how long. Each item on his list makes my stomach tighten. And you've been monitoring all of that? For me? Not constantly, he says, as if that makes it better. Just checking in occasionally, making sure you're safe. What about my friends? Are you monitoring them too? Marcus looks down at his cup, only to make sure they're not a danger to you. So you read my texts with Ashley? With my classmates? Not all of them, he says defensively. Just enough to make sure everything's okay. I think about all the private conversations I've had, all the secrets friends have shared with me, thinking they were safe, all the times I've vented about family, maybe even about Marcus himself. What about that call with Mom last week? When I was upset about my biology grade, did you listen to that too? I told you, I don't listen to calls, he says, but his eyes shift away slightly. You're lying, I say, the realization hitting me hard. You can hear the calls too, can't you? Marcus sighs. It's possible to access recordings for quality assurance purposes, but I've only done that a few times, when I was really worried. Like when? Like when you were crying on the phone with Ashley after that party last month. I needed to make sure you were okay. I remember that night, Ashley and I discussing a sexual assault that happened to another student at a fraternity party. It was deeply personal, not just for the victim, but for Ashley, who'd had a similar experience in high school. That wasn't your conversation to hear, I say, my voice shaking with anger. Those weren't your secrets to know. I'm just trying to protect you, Marcus insists. You don't understand what kind of predators are out there. And you do? Because you're one of them. The words burst out before I can stop them. Marcus recoils like I've slapped him. That's not fair. I'm nothing like Ryan or those other guys. Aren't you? You're stalking me, Marcus. You're violating my privacy and the privacy of everyone I know. It's different, he says. My intentions are good. I pull out my laptop and open the email from the journalist. According to this, what you're doing could land you in federal prison. Did you know that? Marcus's face pales as he reads the screen. You contacted someone about this? I didn't mention you by name, I assure him, but I needed to understand what was happening. He stands abruptly, pacing the small space of my bedroom. You don't understand the responsibility I feel. Ever since Mom and Dad split up, I've been watching out for you. And now with this job, I finally have the tools to do it properly. It's not your job to monitor my entire life, but it works, he exclaims. I've kept you safe from Ryan, from Trevor, from that guy in your English class who has 3 separate restraining orders from women at his previous college. I freeze. What guy in my English class? Michael, the one with the beard who always sits in the back row. Marcus pulls out his phone, opening his database app. He transferred here after being accused of stalking a teaching assistant at his previous school. I feel sick. I'd talked to Michael a few times about our assignments. He'd seemed perfectly normal. How many people are you tracking like this? I ask quietly. Marcus hesitates. I maintain a database of potential threats. People with concerning patterns of behavior. How many, Marcus? He looks at his phone, scrolling through what appears to be a long list. Currently, about 73 individuals in our immediate area. The number stuns me. And what about people who aren't threats? Are you monitoring them too? His silence is all the confirmation I need. You need to stop this, I say firmly. It's wrong, and it's illegal, and it's going to destroy your life if you keep doing it. I can't just stop, he says, his voice desperate. What if something happens to you? What if the next Ryan slips through because I wasn't watching? That's not your burden to carry. I stand up, facing him directly. I'm 18, Marcus. I need to live my own life, make my own mistakes. Even if those mistakes could get you killed? He challenges. Yes, that's what freedom means. I can't live in this surveillance bubble you've created. Marcus runs his hands through his hair, looking genuinely distressed. You don't understand what I see every day in the data. The patterns, the predators circling. It's like watching sharks in the water, and everyone's just swimming around oblivious. So you appointed yourself the lifeguard? For the entire city? Someone has to do something, he insists. I take a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Marcus, I'm grateful you protected me from Ryan. Truly. But this can't continue. You need to delete whatever database you've created and stop accessing people's private information. And if I don't, his voice has an edge I've never heard before. Then I'll have to report you to your company, I say, the words painful but necessary, and possibly to the authorities. The look of betrayal on his face makes my heart ache, but I stand firm. This isn't just about me anymore. It's about everyone whose privacy he's violating. You would do that? He asks quietly. Turn in your own brother? I don't want to, I admit. But what you're doing is wrong, Marcus. On a massive scale. You have to see that. He stares at me for a long moment, then turns toward the door. As he walks out, I notice he's still clutching his phone, the gateway to his surveillance empire. I have a sinking feeling this conversation has only pushed him further into his self-appointed role as digital guardian, and I'm terrified of what I might have to do next. I sit in my car outside Marcus's office building, my finger hovering over the send button. The email to his company's HR department contains everything. Screenshots of our conversations, dates and times when he admitted to monitoring data, details about his unauthorized database of potential threats. Once I press send, there's no going back. This is the right thing to do, I whisper to myself, though the words feel hollow. I think about Ryan with his zip ties and duct tape, about Michael in my English class with his 3 restraining orders. Would I ever have known about these dangers without Marcus's illegal surveillance? But then I think about Ashley's private trauma being overheard, about Marcus listening to my conversation with Mom, about the 73 people in his database who may never pose a threat to anyone, about all the others whose privacy he's casually violated for months. I press send. The response comes faster than I expected. Within an hour, I receive a call from someone named Diane in corporate security. "We take these allegations extremely seriously," she says, her voice crisp and professional. "Can you come in tomorrow morning to discuss this further?" The next day, I sit in a sterile conference room facing 3 people: Diane from security, a man who introduces himself as legal counsel, and a woman from HR. They record my statement, ask for copies of my evidence, and thank me for coming forward. "What happens now?" I ask. "Mr. Lawson has been suspended pending our internal investigation," Diane explains. "If what you've told us is substantiated, there will be severe consequences." And I nod, feeling sick. He's my brother. I don't want to ruin his life. I just want him to stop. The lawyer's expression softens slightly. "You did the right thing. This kind of data access violation is extremely serious. It affects potentially thousands of customers." I leave the building feeling both relieved and terrible. When I get home, Mom is waiting for me in the kitchen, her eyes red from crying. "How could you do this to your brother?" she demands the moment I walk in. "After everything he's done for you?" "Mom, you don't understand what he was doing. He was protecting you," she interrupts. "He told me everything this morning. About Ryan, about those other dangerous men. He was keeping you safe by breaking the law, by violating my privacy and the privacy of who knows how many other people. Sometimes the rules need to be bent to protect the people we love," she insists. I shake my head, frustration building. "This wasn't bending rules, Mom. This was massive, illegal surveillance. He could go to prison for this." The word prison makes her flinch. "He wouldn't have had to do any of this if you were more careful about who you spent time with." The victim blaming hits me like a slap. "So it's my fault he turned into a stalker?" "Don't use that word," she hisses. "Your brother is not a stalker. Then what would you call someone who monitors another person's calls, texts, and location without their knowledge or consent?" Before she can answer, the front door opens and Dad walks in. My parents have been divorced for years, but Mom must have called him about the situation. "I just talked to Marcus," he says grimly. "This is a mess." "Did he tell you what he was doing?" I ask. Dad nods slowly. "He did, and while his intentions might have been good, his methods were completely unacceptable." Mom throws up her hands. "So you're taking her side too?" "This isn't about sides, Patricia," Dad says firmly. "What Marcus did was illegal. Period. He saved our daughter from a predator," Mom shouts. "And he could have done that by telling her what he knew about Ryan without admitting he'd been spying on her for months," Dad counters. I feel a rush of gratitude toward my father. At least someone understands. "Where is Marcus now?" I ask. "At my place," Dad says. "He's pretty shaken up. The company took his laptop, phone, everything. They're doing a full forensic investigation." The reality of what I've set in motion hits me hard. "I didn't want this," I whisper. "I just wanted him to stop." "I know, sweetheart," Dad says, putting his arm around my shoulders. "But this was going to come out eventually. Better from you than from someone else." Later that evening, Dad convinces me to come to his apartment to talk to Marcus. I'm nervous as we walk up the stairs, unsure what to expect. Will he be furious? Devastated? Both? Marcus is sitting on Dad's couch, staring at his hands. He looks up when we enter, and the hollow look in his eyes makes my heart ache. "Hey," I say softly. "Hey," he replies, his voice flat. I sit in the armchair across from him while Dad discreetly retreats to the kitchen, giving us space. "I'm sorry it came to this," I begin. Marcus shakes his head. "No, you're not. You did exactly what you said you would do." "I warned you, Marcus. I begged you to stop, and I couldn't," he admits, "because I knew what would happen if I did." "What do you mean?" He leans forward, suddenly animated. "Do you have any idea how many assaults I've prevented? Not just for you, but for others? That database you reported? It's saved lives. You can't know that for sure." "I can," he insists. "Remember Lisa Chen from your freshman orientation group, the guy who was stalking her last semester? I flagged his behavior pattern to campus security anonymously. They caught him trying to break into her dorm room." I stare at him, unsure whether to believe this or not. "That was you?" "Yes. And there have been others. A woman in the apartment complex across from ours was being threatened by her ex. I sent an anonymous tip to the police with his location when he violated his restraining order. But Marcus, you can't appoint yourself judge and jury over people's private data. It's not right, and it's not legal. The system doesn't work, he argues. By the time the police get involved, it's often too late. I can see the warning signs before things escalate. I shake my head, trying to make him understand. Even if your intentions are good, you're violating people's fundamental right to privacy. Marcus falls silent for a moment. Did they tell you what happens next with the investigation? No, just that you're suspended for now. He laughs bitterly. I'm going to be fired, probably prosecuted. Everything I've built, all the people I've helped, it's all gone now. I didn't want that, I say again. I just wanted you to stop. You don't understand what it's like, he says quietly, seeing the patterns, knowing what's coming, and being powerless to stop it. Something in his tone makes me uneasy. What do you mean? Marcus hesitates, then reaches for his backpack beside the couch. He pulls out a folder and hands it to me. This is why I do what I do. Inside are police reports, restraining orders, and hospital records, all related to a woman named Elise Winters. The dates are from 3 years ago. Who is she? I ask, though I'm starting to suspect the answer. My ex-girlfriend, Marcus says, his voice hollow. I didn't see the warning signs until it was too late. By the time I realized what kind of person he was, she was already in the hospital. He? Who are you talking about? The guy she started dating after me. He seemed normal at first, but then she started canceling plans, making excuses about injuries, classic abuse patterns that I should have recognized. I flip through the documents, my stomach churning at the photos of Elise's injuries. This is terrible, Marcus, but it doesn't justify what you've been doing. Doesn't it? He challenges. After what happened to Elise, I promised myself I would never miss the signs again. When I got the job at the phone company and saw what kind of data was available, I realized I could actually do something. I'm about to respond when another document catches my eye, a restraining order, but it's not against Elise's abuser. It's against Marcus. What is this? I ask, holding up the paper. Marcus looks away. She didn't understand what I was trying to do. Which was what? Exactly. Protect her, he exclaims. After she got out of the hospital, I kept track of her, made sure she was safe. I followed her new boyfriend to make sure he wasn't like the last one. The pieces click into place. You stalked her. I was protecting her, he insists, but there's less conviction in his voice now. Marcus, I say gently, do you see the pattern here? What happened to Elise was terrible, but your response wasn't to get help processing that trauma. Instead, you appointed yourself her guardian without her consent. And now you're doing the same thing to me, to your database of people, to everyone. He's silent for a long moment. I don't know how to stop. He finally admits, every time I think about not monitoring the data, I imagine all the things that could happen, all the people who might get hurt because I wasn't watching. For the first time, I see my brother clearly, not as a malicious invader of privacy, but as someone deeply damaged by his own past, trying desperately to control a world that once hurt someone he cared about. You need help, Marcus, I say softly. Professional help. This isn't something you can fix with surveillance. He nods slowly, tears forming in his eyes. I know. I've known for a while, but it was easier to keep going than to face what was really happening. Dad returns from the kitchen, having clearly overheard at least part of our conversation. The company called while you two were talking, he says. They want Marcus to come in tomorrow for a formal interview with their security team and possibly law enforcement. Marcus looks up, his face pale but resigned. I'll go. I'll tell them everything. As I drive home that night, I feel a complex mix of emotions. Relief that Marcus seems to finally understand the gravity of his actions, sadness for the trauma that drove him to this point, and fear about what comes next. The line between protection and control, between caring and controlling, seems thinner than I ever realized. And I wonder how many other people out there are watching, monitoring, tracking, all in the name of keeping someone safe. The email from Marcus's company arrives on a Tuesday morning, 3 weeks after I reported him. The subject line reads simply, Case Resolution, Employee 4721. I stare at it for several minutes before working up the courage to open it. Following our thorough investigation into the unauthorized data access by employee Marcus Lawson, we have terminated his employment effective immediately. Criminal charges have been filed with the appropriate authorities. We thank you for bringing this serious violation to our attention. The words blur together as I read. It's done. Marcus is officially fired, and according to this email, facing criminal charges. I should feel relieved, vindicated even. But instead, there's just a hollow ache in my chest. My phone buzzes with a text from Dad. Marcus has his first court appearance tomorrow. Thought you should know. I type back, are you going? Yes, he could use the support. You're welcome to come if you feel up to it. I don't respond. I'm not sure I'm ready to face Marcus in a courtroom, to watch my brother potentially be sentenced to prison because of my actions, even if those actions were necessary. Instead, I open my laptop and continue working on the website I've been building for the past 2 weeks. Digital Privacy Alliance reads the header in bold letters. Below it, support for victims of surveillance and digital stalking. After what happened with Marcus, I discovered there were almost no resources for people who'd experienced what I had, plenty for physical stalking victims, but the digital landscape was largely uncharted. So I started building something myself, a place where people could share their stories, find legal resources, and learn how to protect their privacy. My phone rings. It's Ashley. Did you hear? She asks without preamble. About Marcus being fired? Yeah, I just got the email. No, about the support group he was running. There's a strange edge to her voice. What support group? Ashley sighs. It's all over campus. Apparently Marcus was running some kind of underground network for people who'd been stalked or harassed. He was using his access at the phone company to identify potential victims and then reaching out to help them. My stomach drops. That can't be true. I'm just telling you what I heard. A girl in my sociology class said Marcus helped her get a restraining order against her ex last year, provided evidence that he was still following her even after they broke up. I think about the database Marcus mentioned, the 73 people he claimed to be monitoring. Had he actually been helping some of them? I need to talk to him, I say finally. Are you sure that's a good idea? No. But I need answers. I text Dad asking for Marcus's new address. He moved out of Dad's apartment last week, unable to face me after everything that happened. Dad sends the address with a simple message. Be gentle with him. Marcus's new place is a studio apartment above a laundromat downtown. The building smells like detergent and cigarettes. I knock 3 times before he answers. He looks terrible, unshaven, hair unwashed, wearing the same Stanford sweatshirt he's had since high school. His eyes widen when he sees me. Can I come in? I ask. He steps aside wordlessly. The apartment is sparse, just a mattress on the floor, a folding table with a laptop, and boxes still unpacked against the wall. I heard you got fired, I say, for lack of a better opening. Yeah, his voice is rough, like he hasn't used it in days. Court date tomorrow. I also heard something else, about you helping people who were being stalked. Marcus sinks onto the edge of his mattress. Who told you that? Is it true? He nods slowly. Some of them. Not everyone in the database was a threat. Some were victims I was trying to protect. By invading their privacy, by giving them evidence they couldn't get any other way. He runs a hand through his greasy hair. Do you know how hard it is to prove someone's stalking you? How many women aren't believed until it's too late? I sit on the folding chair across from him. Tell me about them, the people you helped. For the next hour, Marcus talks about Lisa Chen, whose stalker had been taking pictures of her through her dorm room window. About a woman named Rachel whose abusive ex-husband was tracking her through her children's phones. About Michael in the English department, who wasn't a predator after all, but was being harassed by a student who couldn't accept rejection. Why didn't you tell me this before? I ask when he finally falls silent. Would it have made a difference? What I did was still illegal. Still wrong. It might have helped me understand. Marcus looks at me directly for the first time since I arrived. After Elise, I couldn't stand feeling helpless. The data gave me power, control. It started with just wanting to protect you. But then I saw how many other people needed help. But you became exactly what you were fighting against, I say gently. A stalker. Someone who violated people's privacy without their consent. I know, his voice breaks. My therapist says I was trying to fix what happened to Elise by controlling everything around me, that I never processed the trauma properly. You're seeing a therapist? He nods. Court-ordered, twice a week. It's helping, I think. I look around the tiny apartment, at my broken brother trying to rebuild himself from the rubble of his mistakes. What happens now? With the charges? My lawyer thinks I'll get probation, maybe some community service. The company doesn't want a big public trial that might reveal how easy it was for me to access customer data. That's good, I guess. An uncomfortable silence falls between us. There's so much damage here, so many broken boundaries and violated trusts. But there's also my brother, the person who taught me to ride a bike and helped me with my math homework and tried, in his own deeply flawed way, to keep me safe. I'm starting a support group, I say finally, for people affected by digital surveillance, people like me, like the ones you tried to help. Marcus looks up, surprised. Really? Yeah. I figured if something good could come out of all this. I trail off, not sure how to finish the thought. I'd like to help, he says quietly, not with data or anything, just, I know things about how surveillance works, how to protect yourself. I could share that. I consider this, maybe, after your court date, after we figure out what the boundaries look like. He nods, understanding the implicit condition. This isn't forgiveness yet, just the possibility of a path forward. We talk for a while longer about his therapy, about my classes, about neutral topics that don't touch the raw wounds still healing between us. When I finally stand to leave, he walks me to the door. I am sorry, he says, for everything. I know, I reply, and I do. I believe he's sorry. I'm just not sure that's enough yet. 3 months later, I'm sitting in a coffee shop with Jake from my college class. We've been seeing each other for a few weeks now, just casual dates, nothing serious yet. He's nice, funny in a quiet way, and completely unaware of the chaos that was my life earlier this year. So your brother's coming to dinner tomorrow? He asks, stirring his latte. Yeah, it's kind of a big deal. First time he's been to my place since. Jake knows the basics that Marcus and I had a falling out, that we're slowly rebuilding our relationship. He doesn't know the details, and I'm not sure when or if I'll tell him. Nervous? He asks. A little. We've been meeting in public places mostly, neutral territory. My phone buzzes with a text. It's Marcus. Still on for tomorrow? Need me to bring anything? I type back, just yourself, 7 p.m. No tracking my location to see if I'm home, no reading my texts to see who I'm with, no background checks on Jake or anyone else in my life. These are the boundaries we've established, the new normal we're trying to build. Marcus is still on probation, still in therapy twice a week. He's working at a bookstore now, no access to sensitive data, no temptation to monitor and control. The support group I started has grown to 30 members, people sharing their stories and helping each other heal from the invisible wounds of surveillance. Sometimes Marcus comes to the meetings to talk about digital security, teaching people how to protect themselves from the very things he once did. It's his way of making amends, I think, turning his knowledge toward healing rather than harm. You know, Jake says, pulling me back to the present, I've never seen someone look so thoughtful about a text message before. I smile and put my phone away, just thinking about how far we've come, my brother and I. That's good, right? Yeah, I say, and I mean it. It's good. As we leave the coffee shop, I don't check to see if anyone's watching. I don't scan the parked cars for Marcus's face. For the first time in a long time, I walk freely, knowing my movements are my own, my privacy intact. It's a simple thing, this freedom. But after nearly losing it, I'll never take it for granted again.